Dangal greetings everyone. My name is Kenneth M. Victoria from the section of 3ITE. I am here to give or to show a tutorial on how to use VLAN and VTP on a network in CISCO Packet Tracer. But first, before I proceed to the tutorial, I must say a brief information about VLAN and VTP. The VLAN, or the Virtual Local Area Network, is a process of segmenting the network devices into a group so that those groups are the only one who have access to one another. So different VLANs from another different VLANs can access each other because the VLAN is like a protection. So it was like a security. So the benefit of implementing VLAN on the network is implementing also the security, and also the benefits of the VLANs are it improves the traffic of the network, since all of the network devices are segmenting into groups and not processing as a whole. And the next one, brief information, is the VTP, or the VLAN tracking protocol. This protocol uses to manage the distribution of the VLAN information from server to all of the client. So it was a process to connect the server into the client network devices. There are three types of VTP mode, which is the server, which is the that controls everything, and the client that only depends or receives the information from the server, and the transparent. When I'm going to say what is the VTP domain. So the VTP domain is the one that groups the switches to one another. So if the switches have different domain, therefore they cannot communicate to each other. So only the switches or the devices that has the same domain can only be the one can be connected to each another. And that's all. Let's proceed to the tutorial of creating a network architecture or structure. Dangal greetings everyone. So it's me, Kenneth M. Victoria from 3ITE. I'm here now to show you the tutorial on how to implement the VLAN and VTP on a network structure or architecture on using CISCO Packet Tracer. So first, we have to create the structure. So that is the structure. As you can see, I have admission, registrar, accounting, and computer lab, and those switches that connected from the server. So all we have to do is to connect the devices from one another to their designated switches. And also, we have to assign the PC their IP address. All of them must have their own IP address. And now, after assigning the IP address, we have now to configure the switches, or the VTP server and VTP client. So let's start with VTP server. CLI enable config T, and then we have to create their host name, the server. And we have to use the VTP version 2 and VTP mode server, since it was the server. VTP domain, that domain with the name of PNC, and VTP password VTP4 as the password of overall of the network architecture. And after that, we have to create the VLANs. VLAN 10 with the name of admission, exit. VLAN 20 with the name of registrar, exit. VLAN 30 with the name of accounting, exit, and VLAN 40 with the name of computer lab, and exit. So after that, we have to connect or to switch port mode from all of the client switches from the server switch. So to do that is we have to do int the first connection and switch mode, switch port, switch port mode trunk, exit, and the next connection. Okay, we have wrong, so let's try again. And switch port mode trunk and exit, and switch port, and so and the last connection, switch port mode trunk and exit again. Let's see the VTP status. And the VTP VLAN brief. As you can see, the VTP version 2 is enabled, and we have the VLAN brief about the connection of the ports of default or the server. And now the next part is configuring the switch clients that connects to the PC and all of the connection. So this is the CLI or command line interface of the server. As you can see, this is the code that the command that I executed. So now let's proceed to the client switches. Let's start with the CLI switch 1. So let's start it. Enable config t, and let's set the host name switch 1 Victoria, and the VTP version 2 as always, and VTP mode client, since it's a client switch, and apply the domain PNC, so we can connect the server from this switch 1, and the VTP password. After that, we have to configure the connection of the PC to these switches. So to do that, we have to interface the first connection, switch mode, switch port mode access, and switch port access VLAN 10. Since the first connection must be connected or set to VLAN 10, and let's exit, and let's proceed to other connection. Just of one switch port mode access, switch port mode or switch port access VLAN 20, and exit, since the second connection must be on VLAN 20. And let's proceed to the last connection of the client 1 switch. and exit. So as you can see, we have set all of the VLAN port or access to the from PC to the client switch, and those information are going to be set to the server, so the server will know their connection and their VLANs. So let's exit. So we have to check the connection. Show VTP status. You can see the VTP version 2 is enabled, so show the VLAN brief. You can see all of the PC have their own ports and active and the default, which is that connects the other switches to one another. So let's go proceed to another. This process will be repeated from other switch clients. So in switch client 2 and switch client 3, but they have their own designation configurations as per the requirements. So let's proceed to another. Enable config key and host name as always. Switch to Victoria and BTP version 2 we don't have, and VTP mode client and VTP domain PNC VTP password 1234. That's all. And we have to configure also the PC that connected to the client switches. First connection, as always, 0.1. Switch port mode access. Switch port mode. Switch port access VLAN 10 and exit. And let's go to other connection, just like what I've done on switch 1. Switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20 and exit. And last connection, FA 21, switch port mode access and switch port access VLAN 30 and exit. So let's check the connection. Show VTP status, show VLAN. You can see all of connections are established and VTP version 2 are enabled. So let's proceed to the last switch client, which is the switch 3, and configure this out. Config key. Now let's proceed to the host name, which is the switch 3 and Victoria. Now VTP version 2 and VTP domain or VTP mode client and VTP mode or VTP domain PNC and VTP password 34. And let's set the connection that is being set first for the requirement. 0.1 switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 40. You should access the VLAN 40 because it's on computer lab. So next connection in the last connection, which is 21 FA21 switch port mode switch port VLAN 40. Exit and exit again and enable. Let's see the connection. Show VLAN or VTP status first. Show VLAN break. As you can see, we only have 2 connections because that is the requirements that we have to do. And all of the switches clients are connected now on the VTP server. And that is how the connection works and how to apply and implement the VTP and VLAN. So let's try the connection if this is work. If this configuration works. So let's try. The PC1 and the PC4 of the switch 1 and 2 have the same VLAN 10. So the connection must be success. So as you can see, first let's clear. See, title window. Try again. It's success. But if we try to access or send message to or to test the connection from another VLAN to one another, it will fail. Same goes with other VLANs. It should always fail because they don't share the same VLAN, so they don't have access to one another. So let's try the other one. VLAN 20 to VLAN 20, success. VLAN 10 to VLAN 10, VLAN 30 to VLAN 30, and VLAN 40 to VLAN 40. All of the same VLANs are successing, and while trying to connect the different VLANs will result into failed. So let's see. As you can see, we have an unconfigured on Computer Lab. So if we try to connect it with the same section, it will fail because it's not connected from the VLAN 40. So it has no access to computers that has set or configured as VLAN 40. So only the PC or network devices that has the same VLAN can only be communicated to one another, to each other, and resulting of failing will be having the different VLAN or the specific devices doesn't have a VLAN connected. So that is all the concept of VLAN and VTP that have or presents security of the network and creating the architecture on how would be the access ports to work and how the access ports to fail since it was not connected to one another. And this is how I created my network structure or architecture. And that's all. Thank you.